I never imagined I'd ask the man who left us for lunch until his secret changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started out like any other Saturday, the sun spilling golden light into our small kitchen. I was so lost in preparing breakfast for my kids, the smell of pancakes wafting through the air, I barely heard the doorbell. My heart skipped when I opened the door and saw him. Derek. The man who had walked away 3 years ago. Just like that. He stood there, hands in pockets, shifting nervously. The slight shudder of my fingers betrayed the shocking sensation that he still made my blood boil. "What are you doing here?" I tried to sound firm, but my voice wobbled. "I need to talk," he said, his eyes darting around, avoiding mine. I thought of all the nights spent wondering where he was. The aching void he'd left behind pulsed in my chest. He stepped inside, and the air felt heavy. Memories swirled around us like a haunting melody. The laughter, the warmth, and the sharp pain of his absence. My heart raced. I could feel the tension crackle, the unsaid words hanging like dark clouds over us. "Derek, I can't do this," I said, the lump in my throat too huge to swallow down. He took a deep breath, looking almost fragile, and that's when I noticed the glint of something in his pocket. My heart drummed a warning. "What is it?" I asked, my hands trembling now. "Dad, is everything okay?" My daughter, Lily, crept down the hallway, blinking in confusion, her innocent brown eyes wide with unease. I hated that he was back. I hated that he still held the power to disrupt our lives. Derek hesitated, glancing at Lily as though she could break the silence, but I could see the storm gathering in his eyes. "It's about something I found." A chill ran down my spine. The kitchen, once a haven, felt like a trap now. The laughter of my children echoed like a cruel joke in the distance. "Derek, I don't want to hear about it," I said, desperately trying to keep my voice steady. But he stepped closer, invading my space, the tension thickening with every heartbeat. "Please. Just hear me out." A bead of sweat rolled down my back, an uncomfortable reminder that I was on the brink of something monumental. He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, the edges frayed like my resolve. "This is why I left," he whispered, handing it to me. I stared at it, my hands shaking, the weight of his secret bearing down on me. The world outside felt distant, like a fading dream. My breath hitched in my throat. What could possibly be so important that it would justify abandoning us? Just as I was about to unfold it, there was a loud bang outside crash that cut through our fragile moment. We both jumped, hearts racing, eyes wide with shock. "Dad?" Lily's voice trembled. Everything inside me twisted. Were we ready for this? I looked at Derek, searching his gaze, but it was shrouded in uncertainty. I had a feeling that whatever he had to say would change everything once again, but what if that change was for the worse? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air was electric with unspoken fears, and an unsettling bond tethered us to that cramped kitchen, suffocating with memories of a family once whole. I clutched the crumpled paper, as if it were a lifeline, but I feared what it might tether me to. Derek's presence, sharp and infinitely complex, turned the clock back to a time when we were imperfect but together. "Mommy?" Lily's small voice pierced through my cluttered mind, a blend of confusion and innocence that should never have to face this turmoil. I turned to her, forcing a smile that felt like a mask slipping over my raw emotions. "Everything's fine, sweetie." "Just a bit of a surprise," I managed to say, praying I could shield her from the storm brewing just out of sight. Derek's eyes softened with a flicker of paternal instinct, glancing at Lily. I didn't mean to disrupt your lives. His voice cracked, a stark reminder that in all the pain, there was also vulnerability. Disrupt? You left us, Derek. That's not just a disruption, I snapped before I could catch myself. Anger flared, and with it came the bitter taste of betrayal. And now, you want to talk? About what? Whatever you've got hidden in that paper. The words hung in the air, but behind them lurked desperation and despair. I didn't want to feel this helpless again, didn't want to hope for truths that could shatter any remnants of stability still standing in place. I know, he said, the weight of it dragging his shoulders down. I've made mistakes, but I've also found something. Something that might stop. I interrupted, raising my voice, the regret biting at my heels instantly. Just tell us what it is. What is it that you found that could possibly justify the last 3 years, Mommy? Lily's voice wavered almost pathetically, as if she were unsure of which world she belonged to now. My heart twisted painfully at the sound. She shouldn't have to bear this weight. Derek took a deep breath, as if preparing for the plunge into deep waters, his whole body trembling with the sheer weight of what existed between us. It's about you. About the family. It's not just an excuse for leaving. It's about something I thought I lost, too. Dad, what are you talking about? Lily cut in, caught between her desire for a dad and her apprehension towards the man standing before her. He drew closer, pulling his gaze away from mine and down to the paper, as if it held the answer to everything. The paper, it contains something I need you both to see. I wish I had connected the dots sooner. But he faltered again, his voice cracking, becoming barely a whisper. I didn't want this to tear our family apart again. What could be that important? My voice betrayed me with a quiver, revealing my hope nestled beneath layers of anger and pain. Derek glanced at me, and I caught a flicker of emotion that twisted something deep in my chest. You have a brother, he said softly. The room fell still. I blinked, the words crashing against my reality like a weight I didn't understand. A brother? What do you mean? Who? He stepped closer, desperation spilling from him. After I left, things happened. I thought I was done with the past. But I've been trying to protect everyone. He's in trouble, and it's linked to everything. That's why I've returned. Lily looked up at me, confusion etched on her small features. A brother? How can that be? Derek's eyes pleaded with mine. I was drowning in whirling questions, promises of safety and betrayal tangled like vines in my heart. What do you mean he's in trouble? The thought of another child needing us sent ripples of concern through my very being. I can't explain it all now, but please trust me. I didn't mean for any of this to come crashing down on you. His eyes darted to mine, the sincerity behind them conflicting with the fear churning in my gut. A brother. My mind raced, grappling with how this new addition might alter our family's fabric, each thread of trust already worn thin. Could there be more than just complications and hurt? Could there be hope in this madness? Before I could voice another thought or concern, the doorbell rang again. Sharper this time. I froze. It felt like an inevitable countdown to what lay ahead. What if it was just the neighbors? Or worse, what if it was someone who would threaten the fragile peace we were barely clinging to? Please, I need you to be cautious, Derek said, glancing toward the door, his expression darkening. Lily stood beside me, both of us suspended between the unknown and the known. Suddenly, I questioned whether the past had ever truly left us, or if it was just biding its time. Then came another loud bang from outside, this one unmistakably forceful. Voices strummed against the edges of my awareness. Open up, Derek. The room felt frozen, fear crashing in waves, drowning our hopes one more time. The revelation of a brother had seemed monumental, but now, something was coming that we weren't prepared for. I turned to Derek, seeing the fear reflected in his gaze. What the hell is going on? The truth, I realized, might not only amass more questions than answers. The surface of our lives was about to shatter, and the echoes of our past were revealing depths I had not anticipated. As the voices outside escalated, the world shifted once more, leaving us teetering on the brink of chaos. Derek's face blanched as the voices beyond the door grew more insistent. I don't know who that is," he stammered, his eyes darting around the room desperately. "It must be connected to my brother. Something is wrong." "What do you mean, your brother?" I hissed, feeling the weight of uncertainty pressing down on my chest, squeezing out the breath I so desperately wanted to find. "You just dropped this bombshell in our laps, and now people are banging on our door?" "What does it mean?" Lily clutched my leg, her small frame trembling slightly. I wanted to comfort her, to protect her from this maelstrom, but I was just as lost, just as afraid. "Please, stay here," I whispered to her, trying to shield her from the impending storm with mere words, but Derek had already moved, urgency enveloping him as he approached the door. "You need to trust me. Whatever's happening right now, it's serious. I'll handle this." He didn't even fully turn to me, his focus locked on the door as if he could somehow will the chaos outside to fade. I felt the panic rise in my throat. "No. Wait." But it was too late. He yanked the door open, and the sight before us sent chills crawling down my arms. Two men, both with sharp features and eyes that glinted with an intensity one didn't trust, stood on the other side. "Derek," one of them said, his tone laced with authority, "we need to talk. Who are you?" Derek demanded, but the air around him seemed to thicken, filled with a tension that only I seemed to recognize. This wasn't a casual conversation, this was an ultimatum. "We're here for your brother. He's made some unfortunate choices, choices that have repercussions. We need your cooperation," the second man stated, his voice as cold as the autumn wind that whipped through the open door. I glanced behind me at Lily, her eyes wide with confusion. I wanted to shield her from this grim reality, but I felt paralyzed. Everything I believed about safe spaces shattered in the moment those men appeared. Is he in danger?" Derek asked, a new vulnerability breaking through his bravado. I could see he was wrestling with guilt, the type of guilt that clings to you like a second skin, even when you have long removed yourself from the source of pain. "More than you know," the first man replied sharply. "We've tracked him down, but we need you to help us get him." "What do you mean, help you?" Derek's voice rose in pitch, a hint of the old defiance surfacing as I felt the familiar burn of frustration ignite within me. "You can't just burst into my life after years and expect me to play along. Your brother's life is at stake." The urgency in the man's voice revealed a depth of concern that I had not anticipated. Derek's jaw tightened at the threat veiled beneath those words. I stepped forward, finding a strength I didn't know I had. "What happened? What does he need help with?" "You came here asking for Derek, but we deserve to know what's going on. Is he in trouble or not?" The men exchanged glances, and a knot of tension formed in my stomach. Silence stretched, punctured only by Lily's soft whimper. "Mommy, who are they?" she whispered, the innocence in her voice seeping into my bones like icy water. We can't give you everything," the second man admitted, breaking under the weight of my relentless stare. "But your brother is involved in something much larger than himself. All we can say is, the choices he made have made him a target." "Target?" Derek echoed, his voice thin with disbelief, the ramifications of those words sinking into him like barbed wire. I felt my heart sink. My family was caught in this web, and now it didn't just extend to Derek, it included his brother, whoever that was. I could feel the walls of my reality pressing in, suffocatingly close. "What do we need to do?" I asked, my voice barely louder than a whisper. "Start by getting your brother," the first man returned, his expression serious. "Well, provide information, but it has to be done quickly. There's no time to lose." Derek turned to me, his eyes pleading and filled with the longing to fix things. But in that moment, a new sense of horror dawned on me. How could he just leap back into our lives expecting everything to be the same? A brother? This complicated mess. It felt like a decision thrust upon us without warning, and yet here I was, standing one step away from involvement in some dark, spiraling conflict. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind us, drawing our attention back to the current chaos. I could feel the world swirling, the air thick and electric with uncertainty. What was that? I exclaimed, my eyes darting around as I sought answers in the faces around me. Derek reached for my arm, a gesture of solidarity against a tide of uncertainty. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect you both," he said, his voice a soft but resolute promise. But I could hear the fear buried deep within. The unknown lingered like a shadow in the corner of the room. Hope felt distant, as if this unraveling family struggled against an unseen weight threatening to collapse in on us. What lurked outside these walls, fueled by secrets and dangers I had never imagined? What would happen if everything came crashing down again? Before I could shake off the growing dread, the door burst open, and a figure I hadn't expected stepped into the room. It was a woman, her face lined with urgency, an expression I had seen many times but on a different canvas, one I thought I had long forgotten. "Derek," she gasped, panic threading through her voice, "he's disappeared." The room seemed to contract around us, the air thick with disbelief. I stared at the woman in horror, my mind racing to piece together the fragments of this sudden revelation. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, the weight of my own confusion making my voice tremble. She took a measured step forward, her eyes darting between Derek and the men still standing at the doorway. "I'm Emily, Derek's sister. I came as soon as I heard." Derek's expression shifted, morphing from shock to a cascade of emotions: relief, confusion, and an undercurrent of shame that was unmistakable. "What do you mean he's disappeared? How do you know?" Her gaze softened as it fell on Derek. "I lost contact with him 2 days ago. I thought maybe he'd ghosted me again, but then I heard from someone connected to the people after him, and they told me he was in trouble. I had to come." The intensity of her presence filled the room, yet it only deepened the sense of panic swirling around us. "But how did you get here?" Derek asked, his voice struggling against the tide of confusion. "That I followed the leads you left," she admitted. "I didn't want to believe it at first, didn't want to think you were wrapped up in this, but I couldn't sit still any longer." The unraveling family portrait was a chaotic landscape, the threads of our lives woven together through secrets and choices. My heart ached for Derek, faced with the weight of his brother's decisions. Now Emily stood in front of us, a living reminder of ties severed over time, yet so suddenly reinstated by the threat looming over us all. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice breaking the silence that consumed the room. Emily turned to me, her gaze piercing through the uncertainty. "We have to find him. If we don't act quickly, we may lose him for good." Derek nodded, determination flickering in his eyes, blending with fear. "But how? I don't even know where he is." The atmosphere thickened again as the two men shifted restlessly at the door, like predators waiting for a moment to pounce. "We have resources," the first man spoke up, breaking the moment of quiet desperation. "But we can't stay here. We need a safe place to plan our next move." "Safe?" I echoed, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. "There's no safe place anymore. Not now." Emily's hand fell to her side, her anger boiling over. "You think hiding in the shadows will save him? We have to confront this. Whatever he got himself into, it's eating him alive, and he needs us." The ferocity of her words stirred something deep within me, a flicker of hope. Sometimes it felt like the shadows bore into our hearts, suffocating the light we desperately needed. But maybe, just maybe, if we joined forces, if we were all willing to reach out for one another, what if he's in danger? What if they find him before we do? I ventured, trying to calculate the risks that seemed almost insurmountable. Derek's eyes met mine with a fierce intensity, as if understanding the fear I held for Lily. "We have to take that risk," he said firmly. "We can't wait and see if it's too late. Not again. I won't let this family fall apart anymore." The fire in his words ignited a sense of purpose I hadn't realized I was missing. The darkness that loomed felt as if it could be pushed back, just for a moment. Before I could contemplate the enormity of our choices, the first man stepped forward. "Time is ticking. We must move. As we gathered our things amidst tension and uncertainty, I felt a flicker of resolve tangled with fear but pulsing with something more, the desire to unearth the truth. The drive to help Derek save his brother would resonate within me, even if it put us all in jeopardy, thrumming like a drum, a warning and a call to action. But just as I wrapped my arms around Lily, feeling the warmth of her small body anchoring me in this emotional tempest, I heard a noise outside, an unmistakable crunch of footsteps drawing closer. Dread swept through me, filling the room like an unwelcome invader, cold and suffocating. I turned to Derek, panic etched into every line of his face. What now? Are they back? Before he could answer, the door burst open yet again, revealing a silhouette that set my heart racing, a figure cloaked in shadow, one I had hoped never to see again. Did you really think you could just walk away from this, Derek? The figure sneered, passion twisting into an unrecognizable shape. My breath caught in my throat as memories came flooding back, webbed with betrayal and sorrow, as the moment stretched into a terrifying silence. The truth was there, looming large above us, drowning out the hope we had just started to grasp. What if this encounter unraveled everything we had just set into motion? What if darkness was truly our only option from here? The figure stepped further into the room, the light catching the edge of familiarity in their stance. It was Ethan, Derek's childhood friend turned adversary, a man with a past entwined with both wins and losses in our lives. He was the straw at the edge of the already precarious balances we were trying so desperately to maintain. Ethan, Derek said, the name falling from his lips like a clumsy stone, laden with the remnants of a once strong bond, now diminished to distrust. What are you doing here? The smugness carried by his expression felt like an intrusion, each smirk a stab of old wounds. You think I'm just going to let my best friend disappear without a trace? You don't know what world you're stepping into, Derek. Or maybe you do, and you just enjoy the thrill. As his words washed over me, I felt anger stirring within me. You don't get to play judge over him. You cast him aside when it mattered most. Ethan's eyes flickered toward me, amusement threading through his irritation. And yet here you are, willingly putting yourself in harm's way for someone who clearly can't stand on his own. TSK, TSK. How noble. Before I could retort, Emily interjected, her voice steady despite the overwhelming tension. This isn't about you, Ethan. Derek is trying to save his brother, something you wouldn't understand. He laughed, a hollow sound that echoed against the walls like a mocking ghost. Save him? You really think your little rescue mission is going to work? You don't comprehend what's at stake. This isn't a game. The weight of his words pressed down on me, squeezing my heart tighter. We need to speak, not fight, I said, desperate to steer the conversation from a hostile confrontation to something that could actually help. If you know anything about where Derek's brother is, you need to tell us. For a moment, the air shifted as Ethan pondered my plea, but a cruel smile danced on his lips. Oh, is that your strategy? Plead with the enemy? Derek stepped forward, anger radiating off him in waves. Enough. We don't have time for this. Time? You think you have time? You're swimming in a river of sharks, and you want to throw breadcrumbs at them, Ethan retorted, leaning closer as if he could reach into Derek's panic and tear it apart. You just might find that the ones you thought you could trust are the very predators waiting for you. I felt a chill skitter up my spine at those words, an instinctual sense that he was warning us of something beyond the obvious. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, perhaps savoring the tension in the air or simply weighing his next words carefully. Let me put it this way, you're not the first people to come looking for him, nor will you be the last. There are forces at play the tray well beyond what you've figured out. Emily crossed her arms, leaning forward. You know something. You owe it to us to share. His demeanor took on a conspiratorial air, and for a fleeting moment, I could see a flicker of nostalgia in his expression. If I help you, he said, his voice dropping, you have to understand that there are debts to be repaid. If your little family reunion plan goes south, consequence comes for everyone involved. Including those you love. My heart raced. Could he be bluffing? Was this an attempt to intimidate, or was there some substance behind his threats? Fine, Derek said, his resolve making a sudden leap. What do you want in return? Just a ride to where I know your brother's been staying, he said, leaving an uncomfortable silence to stretch between us. Get in the car with me. No phones, no tricks. Derek looked toward Emily and me, uncertainty draping his features. We can't trust him, I said, instinctively sensing the pull of danger wrapped in the offer, but the world outside reverberated with urgency, the weight of lost time gnawing at my resolve. I thought of Lily, of the uncertainty she lived in every day. We need to find him, Derek. If this is the only way. His gaze narrowed on me, and the moment felt suspended in time. You think you can follow me into the lion's den? You hear what he's saying? We could easily end up in worse trouble, but what if he's telling the truth? Despite my own doubt, my voice trembled with the precariousness of hope. What if this leads us to Derek's brother? We owe him that much. In the electric atmosphere, the friction of conflicting thoughts was palpable. There was no clear answer but a cacophony of instincts battling within. Finally, Derek sighed a long, slow exhale as if he was releasing all tension, surrendering to the storm. Okay. But we do this together. If anything feels off, we walk away. Ethan's smile broadened as he directed us toward the door, every glance lingering longer than necessary. I felt the oppressive weight of dread as we walked past him, the nagging sensation that we were diving headfirst into an abyss of uncertainty. As we stepped out into the dimly lit hallway, Lily's small hand slipped into mine, and I squeezed it tightly. Well, find him, I murmured, a promise tethered to each ragged breath. But as we ventured out into the unknown, an uneasy chill lingered at the back of my mind. The darkness beckoned, reminding me that more secrets lay hidden, lurking in the shadows. The real question was, were we prepared to face whatever awaited us on the other side? Just as I took a breath to steady myself, Ethan turned back, his gaze piercing through the night. And remember this, he said. Sometimes the people you believe you can trust become the prophets of your own doom. I felt the world shift under my feet, a tremor of fear unearthing something I wasn't ready to confront. My heart pounded against its ribcage as the truth echoed in my mind. Escape was just a word, and the deeper we dug, the more entangled we might become. The dimness of the parking lot swallowed us as we stood before Ethan's car, a sleek vehicle that seemed to promise secrets and treachery in equal measure. I felt Derek beside me, his muscles coiled tight like a spring, ready to unleash anger or despair. Little Lily, oblivious to the weight of the situation, played with a loose thread on her jacket, her innocence casting a momentary glow amidst our shadows. Are you sure about this? Derek whispered, his voice barely breaking the chill that hung in the air. I turned to him, hoping to convey a confidence I wasn't sure I felt. We have to try, I replied, my heart heavy with the potential consequences. In the back of my mind, a flicker of doubt whispered to me, what if Ethan was leading us into a trap rather than the light at the end of a very dark tunnel? Ethan gestured for us to get in, his casual demeanor unsettling. The sooner we get rolling, the sooner you'll be on the road to finding your brother, he said, as if this were simply a joyride rather than a desperate gamble wrapped in uncertainty and fear. That I squeezed Derek's hand before letting go, the warmth of his palm slipping away as I climbed into the back seat alongside Lily. Ethan slid into the driver's seat with a smirk that made my skin crawl, and as he turned the ignition, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. The car roared to life, cutting through the dormant silence of the night. As we pulled away from the parking lot, the fluorescent lights faded into darkness, accompanied by a knot of apprehension twisting within me. I glanced at Derek, who stared out the window, the distant wisp of streetlights reflecting in his troubled eyes. Where exactly are we headed? He finally asked, his tone laced with skepticism, the same uncertainty gnawing at the edges of my own resolve. That's for me to know and you to find out, Ethan replied, his gaze fixed forward, a hint of mischief resting just behind his words. But you need to understand something. This won't be a friendly reunion. People don't just disappear without leaving a mark, and they certainly don't stay hidden unless they want to be. An uneasy silence filled the car, and I felt the air grow thick with tension. Lily shifted beside me, her small body radiating warmth. I placed a protective arm around her shoulders, finding solace in her presence despite the growing tempest outside. Derek sighed. "What is this mark you're talking about? I'll explain when we get there," Ethan replied curtly. "Just know that not everyone is who they claim to be. Trust is a luxury you can't afford on this road that we barreled down the streets, each turn pushing us deeper into a realm of uncertainty, haunted by Ethan's warning. With every passing minute, the fear of the unknown morphed into something more palpably a living entity teasing us with doubt, clenching its fist around our purpose. Ethan took a sudden left onto a dimly lit alley, drawing a sharp intake of breath from me. "Where are we?" I blurted, catching the edge between hysteria and a need for clarity. "Relax," he said, his voice unnervingly calm. "Just the shortcut I know. Besides, I'd be surprised if anyone followed us." The alley grew narrower as we progressed, abandoned buildings casting long, distorted shadows against the car windows. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared in the distance, illuminating a gathering of ragged figures loitering near a flickering street lamp. Instinctively, I grasped Lily's hand tighter against the sense of danger that began to permeate the atmosphere. "I don't like this," Derek said, a faint tremor in his voice. "We should turn back," Ethan merely chuckled, sharp and devoid of sentiment. "Oh, but we're just getting started." My heart raced as I felt the urgency of our situation close in, suffocating and overwhelming. "We can't turn back now, Derek. We've come too far. We owe it to his brother, to our past, to keep trying." Derek's gaze wavered, caught between loyalty to his brother and the instinct to protect us from whatever lurked in the night. As we continued deeper into the maze of shadows, I caught sight of something that turned my blood to ice: the unmistakable silhouette of a large, steel door looming ahead, marred by graffiti and time, as if it carried secrets that cried out from its rusted hinges. Ethan slowed the car to a halt, the engine's rumble fading into an eerie silence that wrapped around us like a shroud. "Here we are," he said, a mirthful undertone threading through his words. My chest tightened. "What is this place?" He smiled, almost fondly, as if recalling a lost memory. "A crossroads of sorts. Many have come here looking for answers and many have left with far more than they bargained for." The unspoken risk slammed through me like a tidal wave. We weren't merely looking for Derek's brother, we were stepping into an arena fraught with peril and unpredictable alliances. With every breath, it became clear that hope was intertwined with danger in a web we could ensnare ourselves in further. Just as I prepared to speak, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit space beyond. "Let's go," Ethan said, unfastening his seatbelt. Derek hesitated, his hand resting on the door handle. "What if this is a trap?" "Then we'll deal with it together," I reassured, though my heart throbbed in rhythm with dread. With a shared resolve that barely masked the fear gnawing at my insides, we stepped out into the unknown, drawn toward the whispers of our past and the looming specter of what awaited us. And as the door swung open wider, it felt as though we were not merely crossing a threshold but stepping off the edge into an abyss where the echoes of our choices would collide with the fates we'd long tried to escape. But lurking beneath the layers of darkness, a flicker of something deeper tugged at my consciousness, a thread woven through the fabric of our destinies, hinting at a revelation that would change everything we thought we knew or lead us into the very heart of our own undoing. The air hung thick with anticipation and a faint metallic scent as we entered the dim space beyond the heavy steel door. A rusty overhead light flickered intermittently, casting dancing shadows on the cracked concrete walls. The room felt too small, too oppressive, as if it had absorbed the fear and desperation of those who had walked through this very entrance before us. Ethan stepped in confidently, as if this was a familiar territory. "Welcome to the crossroads, my friends," he declared, his voice echoing slightly in the expanse. The chill in his tone did little to comfort me. Derek held onto my arm, and I could feel the tension radiating from him. "What is this place really? It's like we've walked into a nightmare," he muttered, eyes darting to the corners of the room as if expecting something to emerge from the shadows. Just then, another figure strolled out from behind a stack of cretisses, a thin man with unkempt hair and a wild look in his eyes. He surveyed us with a mixture of curiosity and caution, as if weighing our worth in some invisible balance. Immediately, I felt a pang of anxiety. This was no ordinary meeting. We had stepped into a lair of unpredictable characters. "Who's your friend, Ethan?" the man asked, his voice gravelly and slow, like molasses dripping from a worn-out bottle. "Someone who needs to find her brother," Ethan replied, flippant yet underlined with an urgency that belied his nonchalance. The man raised an eyebrow. "And what makes you think you can get him back? Hope is a cruel joke in these parts." He leaned closer, almost invading my personal space, his breath carrying the sting of whiskey. "You should know, once you enter this game, there's no backing out." Ethan shot him a sideways glance, a flicker of annoyance crossing his features. "Maybe we're not here to play games," he said, the tension thickening between them like a frayed wire ready to snap. "Good luck convincing yourself of that," the man replied, retaking his position behind the crates as if dismissing us entirely. My heart pounded in my chest. "Isn't there anyone here who could help us?" I asked, desperation coating my words. I felt the weight of my plea hang in the air, a challenge to the unknown. "I can," a new voice echoed from the far side of the room, drawing our attention. A woman stepped into the light, her features striking yet worn, her eyes piercing, hinting at experience steeped in both pain and wisdom. She walked with an authority that cut through the tension like a knife. "I am Mira," she said, her gaze steady on me as if she could see through my facade of bravery. "What makes you think you're ready for what lies ahead? This isn't a simple rescue mission, it's a labyrinth of betrayal and secrets waiting to ensnare you." The reminder of the enormity of what we faced sent a tremor through me. I remembered the countless nights worrying about Derek's brother, the gnawing uncertainty now manifested into a tangible threat. "We have to try. He's our family," I replied, my voice quaking slightly but resolute. Derek, still clutching my arm, finally spoke up. "What do you know about him? Where can we find him?" Mira studied us for a brief moment, then let out a long breath, as if deciding whether to impart wisdom or allow us to fall deeper into the dark chasm of our choices. "Your brother's not hiding, he's in hiding. And in this world, that's not the same thing. He's gotten involved with people far more dangerous than you can imagine." A chill crept down my spine as the reality of her words sunk in. What had Derek's brother gotten himself into? How would we even know where to look if we couldn't trust Ethan, or even Mira herself? "Is he alive?" I forced myself to ask, the fear bubbling up as I imagined the worst scenarios spiraling through my mind. A sliver of hope remains. "But you need to understand, the journey will burden you more than what you can bear alone." She paused, the gravity of her words seeping into the air. "However, if you decide to push forward, I can guide you. But my help doesn't come for free." Derek narrowed his eyes. "What's the catch?" Mira seemed to thrive on our apprehension, a slight smile creeping across her face. "Trust is currency in this world, and loyalties are fickle. You'll have to divulge your deepest secrets, truths that could bind you or tear you apart." I glanced at Derek, desperate to gauge his reaction. I knew we both had things hidden within us that could ruin us, but at that moment, I felt the weight of the decision pressing down on my heart. The hope of finding Derek's brother was tantalizing, yet the knowledge that it could cost us everything left me feeling vulnerable. Ethan leaned against the wall, his expression unreadable, eyes locked onto Mira. There was a shared history there, something unspoken that reverberated through the dim light. "Are you willing to pay the price?" she asked, her stare challenging. "Or will you let fear choke the last flicker of hope you have left?" Before either of us could respond, a sudden crash sounded from the back of the room, causing us all to jump. A figure tumbled out from behind the crates, and my breath caught in my throat as I recognized who it was, the very person we had come to find. "Help me!" he shouted, panic lacing his voice. But his eyes widened not with relief upon seeing us, but something far darker, a knowledge of impending doom. "They're coming. You have to run." As he stumbled forward, the weight of the world crushed down on us. Hope flickered dangerously, teetering on the brink, while dread settled coldly in the pit of my stomach. The room erupted into chaos, and as reality spiraled into confusion, I knew we had stepped into a nightmare with secrets unraveling and enemies closing in. our only choice was to face the storm or be consumed by it. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed unnervingly against the stark concrete walls, propelling my heart into a frantic beat. Derek's brother staggered forward, panic etched across his face. A rush of conflicting emotions surged within Mirleaf, dread, anger even as I took in the sight of the very person we'd risked everything to find. Get down. Derek shouted, reflexes kicking in as he instinctively moved to shield his brother from an unseen threat. I felt the weight of the moment, the same conflicted emotions reeling me in several directions at once. Still reeling from confusion, I locked eyes with Ethan. "What are we going to do?" I whispered, my voice barely a trembling breath. He remained unflinching, but I caught the glint of determination mixed with caution in his gaze. "Stay close," he said, his voice low and firm. "We need to move, we can't let them find us here." But before we could fully react, Mira stepped forward, her demeanor shifting from that of a guide to a warrior. "We don't have time for disbelief. We must stand together, or it will all unravel." Derek's brother gasped, trying to catch his breath, the adrenaline visibly coursing through him. "I thought they'd lost track of me," he panted, still scanning the area for danger. "But they're always watching, always waiting." "Who's coming?" I asked, heart pounding even harder. I can't explain now. They'll kill us all if they find us here." He looked over his shoulder, eyes wide with terror, and I felt the surge of bonds woven into our family tethering us together. Yet my heart wavered with concern. What had led him to this moment? What had he gotten himself into that made death a real consequence? The air felt thick and taut, the impending danger almost a living presence. "Come on," Derek urged, pulling his brother closer. "We can't stay here." But I noticed a flicker of doubt in Derek's eyes, a hint of uncertainty mixing with his own protective instinct. After all, delivering his brother from peril would now come into conflict with unraveling their shared past. Just then, Ethan pushed aside a rusted metal door, revealing a narrow corridor veiled in darkness. I couldn't help but feel the weight of my next decision. The promise of salvation was intertwined precariously with the shadows of uncertainty that loomed before us. Was it worth the risk? "I'll go first," Mira said, confidence radiating from her. "Trust me to guide you through this." As we squeezed through the doorway, the cold air hit me, filling my lungs with a mixture of anticipation and dread. I moved closely behind Derek, whose body radiated a fierce protectiveness towards his brother. But that tenderness was tinged with a shadow from the past shared history that, not long ago, had bound them in memories of laughter and love, now strung taut by the threat of what could come. "You shouldn't have come back," Derek's brother murmured, his voice trembling under the weight of regret, as if fearing he had brought the calamity down on us. "This is my fight now. You might not survive intimately entwined in it." "Stop," Derek snapped, the edge in his voice cutting through the undertones of pain. "I didn't leave you behind because I wanted to. I thought I was saving you." The corridor felt infinitely long, twisting and turning as we raced against time, footsteps echoing ominously behind us like the shadows of our past trying to catch up. I caught moments in quick flashes a glimpse of Derek's pain with each step, a longing for a connection that now felt severed at its roots, and the palpable strain of choice hanging in the air. Dread pooled in my stomach. Could he truly forgive what had happened, or would this only serve as a reminder of the betrayal that led to his brother's disappearance? As we reached a junction, Mira stopped abruptly. "This way," she directed, veering to the right. But her voice turned taut as if sensing something. "They're getting closer." Ethan rushed us into an alcove, shadows stretching menacingly as we sheltered beneath the crumbling ceiling. My eyes darted between the faces around me, Derek's determination stark against his brother's visible fear. What choices had they both made that brought us here? What secrets lay tangled between them, waiting to be exposed? Suddenly, the ground beneath us shook, a low rumble vibrating through the air as the heavy footfalls became louder. "We need to move now," I urged, heart racing, though a part of me was transfixed by the fragile tension hanging between the brothers. But before we could step out again, a loud crash erupted as the door we had just passed through splintered apart, revealing figures cloaked in shadows. My breath caught, and an icy realization shot through me. They had found us, had laid a trap we hardly comprehended. Run! Mira shouted, but it was already too late. An impossible dilemma lay before us, revealing itself in the chaos: a choice to protect our past or pursue a future we could scarcely comprehend. With nowhere to go, uncertainty blurred the lines of who we'd become as the threat loomed closer, and I grasped desperately at fleeting imaginations of hope. What choices would we have to make if our tomorrow was a battle for survival, fighting against not just our pursuers, but the ties that haunted us from within? As the blurs of darkness advanced, I found myself wondering whether the biggest danger lay outside in the shadows or within our hearts, where trust once flourished among us and now lay teetering on the verge of catastrophe. Could we, together, become more than the sum of our fears, or would our shared past destroy us before we could find our way back? The chaotic second before the figures burst through the door seemed to stretch into eternity. The raw urgency of the moment hit me like a punch to the gut as the tremors of impending doom echoed in my ears, drowning the desperate thoughts that raced through my mind. I felt Derek's brother, still trembling with residual fear, tense beside me, as if he could sense the ramifications of the choices we were about to face. Is this how it ends? I whispered, staring into the void where silence used to dwell. I clutched Ethan's arm, heart pounding with the frantic melody of our peril. Derek gritted his teeth, glaring defiantly at the shadows as they materialized before us, each silhouette rapidly assembling into figures of authority, figures dressed in dark uniforms that hinted at a perilous intent. "No. We're not going to let it end like this," he growled, his protective nature surging forward in the face of adversity. Mira moved with a purpose, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We have to push back. If they've found us here, it means something else is at stake, a bigger game. We may have to sacrifice familiarity to escape together." "What do you mean?" I asked, bewildered by her words. I could feel the warmth of Derek's body next to mine eclipsed by an icy dread that enveloped us. Each of us stood at the precipice, our histories looming over what lay just ahead. "Their interests are not just in capturing you," Mira explained, her eyes darting between us and the approaching figures. "It's about something bigger. Something that can topple everything we knew." An awful realization smacked me with its clarity. Our lives were merely pawns in a convoluted game spun by invisible hands, yet before I could process the weight of her words, the air erupted with frantic shouts and footsteps. "Go left!" Derek shouted, grabbing his brother by the shoulder, steering him to an adjacent passage. The dissonance of our breaths filled the silence, a chorus of uncertainty all harmonizing in fear as we took off, racing deeper into the labyrinthine hideaway. And then there was a wonderful moment amidst the confusion, where the unexpected emerged like a fragile flower blooming in harsh circumstances. A stranger stepped from the darkened hall, a woman with strikingly fierce eyes and a confident stride. She lifted a finger to her lips, signaling for silence. "Follow me," she hissed, gripping my arm as she guided us off the main path and into a cramped corner. The fledgling hope ignited in my heart as we stammered behind her. Who was this woman who seemed to know the very veins of this shadow-laden space? "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice hushed but laden with desperation. "Someone who believes you can turn the tide," she replied, her voice steady. "Trust me. We don't have time to waste." As she led us through hidden passageways, the adrenaline fueled our movement, deftly weaving around corners and ducking low beneath the crumbled structure. I caught glimpses of Derek's brother, who shared furtive glances with Derek that spoke of longing and an unvoiced yearning for both redemption and danger. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, and the air vibrated with the distant shouts of guards echoing through the corridors. "They're closer than I thought," the woman murmured, her confidence wavering. "We'll have to split up." "Split up?" Derek's voice quaked slightly as he sensed the weight of the decision. "No. We can't sacrifice anyone. This is about all of us making it out. Risk is the cost of survival," the woman insisted, glancing toward the approaching figures. "You have to trust that this will provide your longest shot at escape." Tension cracked through us as the shadows from the guards grew more pronounced. It was a fracture point in our trust, a divide that could reshape us forever. In the increasingly potent silence, with the guards closing in, our backs pressed against the wall not just of circumstance, but the ravages of our shared past. "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "If we split up, we regroup at the old factory at the outskirts. If we don't meet there according to plan, then we'll find another way." The weight of my words hung heavy in the air. Hope and fear intertwined like vines, wrapping around my heart. Derek looked at me, searching desperately for assurance, yet all I could muster was a gnawed fragile confidence tremoring in a symphony of chaos. "Fine," the woman advised as she adjusted her grip on Derek's brother's arm. "Stay together, and trust no one outside this circle. We will find each other." In that moment of clarity, something unfurled deep within me, a resolution to face the trials ahead with whatever courage we could muster. I took hold of Ethan's hand, locking our solidarity with a shared understanding of what we were fighting for, not merely survival, but a chance at healing the fractured pieces of our lives. But as we turned to separate along the murky pathways, Derek paused. "Wait," he called, his voice trembling. "There's something I need to say." I felt that familiar unease creeping back as time hung like a taut line, stretching moments of uncertainty. Whatever he was about to confess held gravity beyond the chaos swirling around us. "Please, just," he hesitated, anxiety fluttering like a moth caught in the light. "I was wrong. I should have fought harder for you both. I need to tell you about the day I didn't come back." Ethan's expression shifted to one of painful concern. The shadows of the past threatened to pull us back, overshadowing our attempts to move forward, but the clarity of that moment could shatter old barriers. "Derek, we don't have time," his brother urged, eyes wide with fear, but our path together was splitting before us, and I feared what truth might plunge into the already murky depths between us. "Just listen." Before he could finish, our surroundings trembled once more, and the dark figures boiled toward us with unbridled energy. In a blink, the moment dissolved into a blur of movement, our paths unfurling before us, unknown futures collapsing into an immediate fight for survival. As the shadows closed in, I found myself torn between the past and an uncertain future, a thread of hope feeling thinner by the moment. Would the truth that might bind us together ultimately tear us apart? In the chaos, Derek's voice faded, echoing like a forgotten promise, while we slipped into the labyrinth of the unknown, our hearts gripped by the realization that everything we thought we knew was about to change. The air felt electric, charged with the weight of secrets and truths that had lain dormant for too long. As the figures closed in, the flickering lights cast erratic shadows that seemed to dance around us, a foreboding reminder of the choices we had made and the ones looming before us. The tension spilled into my every pore. Each beat of my heart told me we were on the precipice of something monumental, and the line between salvation and ruin wavered before us like an illusion. I could feel Derek's intense gaze, a tether to the past we had both tried to navigate and escape. His brother stood close, panting like a trapped animal. Fear had manifested in every crevice of his countenance, and in that moment, an echo of their shared history threatened to flood the space around us. I couldn't shake the notion that we were being swallowed by the darkness, by the sins of our past, those unspoken words that had caused our family to fracture. "Move," Mira urged, breaking into the tense silence as she steered us down the corridor. But I felt frozen, caught in this maelstrom of history and hope, where the two sacrificed the other on a heavily marked altar of choices. The relentless sounds of footsteps drew near, each resonating thump a countdown, pulling us further into chaos. We rounded a corner, the dim light ahead promising escape, yet darkness clung closely as though trying to unleash old demons hidden in plain sight. I could sense Derek's brother casting anxious glances behind us, and the urgency shot through me. If we didn't reach safety soon, another piece of our shattered family would slip away forever. As we emerged into what seemed like an expansive room, the chaos crescendoed. "Split up!" Derek shouted, instinctively trying to shield his brother, but the weight of our new reality pressed down heavily on us all. In that essential moment, the faint flicker of hope within me ignited. We might yet extract ourselves from this tumultuous embrace. "Stick to the plan. We meet at the factory," I shouted, fear lending a fierce clarity to my voice, anchoring the resolve flickering within us. I turned toward the darkened corridor, heart racing like a wild drum. "We can do this," and then, without warning, the figures behind us surged, crashing through the doorway like hungry wolves eager to reclaim what was theirs. Mira positioned herself protectively, her fierce gaze colliding with mine, all the intensity of survival pooled into that moment. "Go. Now," she urged, but I stood paralyzed as Derek's voice broke through the turmoil of my racing thoughts. "Wait. Don't leave without knowing," he called, his voice thick with urgency. "I should have never left. I had to protect you both, and in doing so, I failed you. But I need to tell you everything." Something in that plea twisted my heart. Standing at the crossroads of pain and love, the moment felt electric thunderous. But time was slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. "Derek!" I yelled, trying to rally him to leave with me. I could feel the shadows creeping closer, the clamor of footsteps warning us we had moments left, but he was consumed with the weight of his regrets, the gravity of truths long buried. "Just listen." The earnestness in his voice stopped me. "It's about that day, the day I chose to walk away. I believed I was protecting you. I never meant to leave you behind." Tension twisted through me, each word dripping with the kind of sorrow that splintered families. "Derek. Please." The fear in my voice echoed against the backdrop of approaching footsteps, but still, his anguished expression pleaded with me to understand. When I left, there were things I thought I'd buried, things flickering to life again because of the choices I made. I was scared, feeling like a coward, yet the chaos followed me. "I have a reason for being back, and I need you to forgive me, if we ever get out of this alive." His words wrapped around me, binding us together in the ache of shared grief, the kind only the two of us could comprehend. But I still felt the ghost of anger flaring in my chest, a raw reminder of all I had lost. "This isn't the right time. If we don't go now, we lose our chance." In that frantic moment, realization flooded over us. This fractured family, woven together by regret and sacrifice, needed more than just one heartfelt confession. It required a willingness to embrace the unknown, to navigate the darkness together. But how could I forgive him amidst the impending chaos? Would love be enough, or were our ties too frayed to salvage? All around us, the passage vibrated with fury, the sound was relentless. I could almost hear the shouts of those seeking retribution. Time slipped dangerously low, and the urgency pulled us taut. Through that pressure cooker moment, empathy ignited. Now was not the time to dwell on who had betrayed whom. "Derek," I called, desperation edged with certainty. "If we get out of here, I will do my best to forgive, but right now, we need to move or we'll fall into the darkness once again." And that was it, the tipping point. The choice became clearer, glimmering through all the shadows like the dawn breaking from night. He heard me, understood what lay at stake, yet a flicker of hope ignited in his eyes as he nodded with renewed purpose, moving to join me. "Let's go, together," he said, determination pooling in his veins like fire. With that statement, we surged forward, dove into the unknown, hearing the blood rush in our ears. We moved with purpose, shadows peeling away as we propelled ourselves down the narrow corridor, the lights flickering behind us in a frantic dance of darkness and revelation that we slipped through, barely escaping the grasping tendrils of the looming shadows, weaving through the path as if the essence of family, the struggle igniting the drive within, illuminated the way forward. But ahead we could feel the haunting specter of uncertainty and fear looming, ready to strike again. The whispers of fate were upon us, weaving a tapestry fraught with danger and promise. And somehow, amidst it all, I felt the heaviness lifting, replaced by a belief that if we faced this together, we could forge a path into the light. As we braced ourselves for whatever came next, a single thought pulsed through me like a lifeline: our shared history, our pain, our scars would be the very force that ignited our future. In the culmination of love and forgiveness, family could be reborn, and in that moment, as we approached the towering doorway toward what lay ahead, I realized the greatest truth of our family story is not solely marked by its shadows, but instead by the relentless pursuit of light. Together, we stepped into the unknown, ready to reclaim what was lost, to rewrite our own destiny, our hearts aligned in purpose, breathing together in audacious hope. We emerged as one, leaving the ghosts behind, ready to face whatever the world had to throw at us because, in the end, Love would always be the fiercest weapon in our grasp. As the darkness writhed around us, the flicker of dawn brushed tenderly against our resolve, and I arrived at a profound understanding: forgiveness is not forgetting the past, but recognizing its role in shaping the future. And as those words swirled around us, I found myself thinking of Derek, of us, this complicated, intertwining beautiful mess we called family, and I could finally see the way forward, unfurling before us, a promise glistening through the storm, resilient and brimming with hope.